Okay, we're live now. Hi, everyone. Some stuff on the screen. Should be a little better now. All right. So, hi, I'm Jen. I'm the owner of actuallydied.com. And yeah, we are going to do some things today. Predominantly, we're going to be doing some wheel spinning, but I've also brought my supported spindle in here so that we can do our sweater yarn, well, my sweater yarn, in two different ways. So, yeah, to catch those up who might not be familiar, I like to come up with crafting New Year's resolutions so that I'm kind of making the year slightly more interesting by not just, doing things on a whim, but sort of challenging myself to either learn a new technique or accomplish a project. And because I've never actually made enough hand spun for a sweater, and I've also never finished knitting a sweater, period, and then actually worn it, I thought now is a really good time to do that. So, for those of you out there who have wheels making hand spun for sweater quantities, which usually can range anywhere between like 1,200 to 2,000 yards, using a wheel is obviously going to take a lot less time than using a supported spindle. But there are people out there who might not necessarily have the space or the budget, and maybe they just like the way that hand spun looks with other methods. So I wanted to kind of expand it slightly. So my main focus is making hand spun with the wheel and this yarn, and then also seeing how far I can get with my supported spindle and getting enough hand spun quantities that way, to kind of be as inclusive as possible. So yeah, today is actually a really lovely day in the UK. Sun is shining, so I don't even have to get any lights set up, so that's nice. I've been working all week, and I haven't really been able to get out and enjoy the weather. So, for those of you who know I have a kitty, I took them actually outside in the garden for probably, well, close to about an hour, so they could give a little poke around. So we've got a few people already here with us. Hi, Ben. Nice to see you in the chat, first thing. And Sonia. So I do have some supported spindles for sale. I've been very slow at getting them up, mainly because this week has been kind of chaotic. And I needed to wait for the boxes to put the spindles in to arrive. So they finally arrived. And so I've got the spindle and the box to put everything in. And if you can see sort of the size difference, it's kind of extreme. So there's probably going to be some free wool going with the spindles. So if you are interested in getting a supported spindle, feel free to go to actuallydied.com. I haven't been able to talk to the wood turner for the last few weeks, but I did send her away with some ply magazines about I gave her the supported ply issue and also the suspended spindle issue from ply. And speaking of which, this has been sitting here in the mailer packaging for the last week. So lots of things to get to, but I will be able to put more spindles in the shop now over the next week, because the shop I work for is closed the week after Easter. So yeah, just to let those of you who are interested in the spindles know what's up with that. Hi, Chris and Mariana. Ooh, I don't know how to pronounce your name. I've seen it before many times. Apologies for not knowing how it's pronounced. Oh, well, you said you're from Montana. Yeah. Layla's currently passed out in the sunshine. It's probably about upper 60s today, and I've been taking full advantage, even wearing shorts. So, alright. Now, I realized the other day when I was sitting down looking at my wheel from the couch that this is the second bobbin that I've done for this hand spun, and this one is the first one, and you can probably see how obvious the difference is, at least now. This one is much fuller than this one. So I thought I was going to be done and actually able to ply each of the 3 bobbins together to make a 3-ply, but I can't. I'll have to probably do that in the next video I do, or maybe I'll just do it and then post some photos to Instagram. But I'm really happy that this project is winding down, because I need to spin something with color, and I've just not really been able to since I started this project. So it takes up basically, I always have to make sure I have 4 bobbins free so I can spin the 3 singles and then ply it onto the 4th. I'm also using this, it's basically a pure white merino. And if for those of you who are familiar with my old blog, which is expertlydyed.blogspot.com, this is the same mesh bag that I used to wash this merino in originally. I didn't actually give you any scale of comparison when I posted that to the blog, but yeah, I had to do this several times just for one of the merino fleeces, and I managed to lose, I had 2 bags like this, and I managed to lose the other one somehow. It's probably in storage somewhere. But I feel like I've been spinning miles and miles of this yarn, and I'm barely making a dent in the amount of wool that I originally purchased, which is kind of crazy. So I have this container, and then I have 4 more like it, but full. So even though merino has a very high lanolin content, and I scoured this to remove all but probably about 10% or so, you can still feel it when you've been spinning it for a while. It doesn't feel tacky when you card it or you spin it, but your hand that's working with the wool, you can actually feel that part of your hand become softer as you're spinning. So that's all the lanolin that's still present. So I bought 3 fleeces from this particular sheep, and it weighed about 6 to 6.5 pounds per fleece. And you'd think that's, you know, also a lot of waste in terms of once you've gotten rid of the second cuts and you've scoured it to remove a lot of the lanolin, but actually there's so much left. And I've made several projects with this wool, and I think this is the last bit of the first fleece that I bought, and so I have 2 full fleeces still to work with. So if I'm happy with the sweater pattern that I've selected for this wool, I'm hoping that I'll be able to get a sense of how much wool I'm going to need at the start of the project, so that if I want to just dye and cut up a bunch of bats, then I can feel safer knowing I've got plenty of yardage, so I can work more with color rather than just having to spend, you know, months spinning white wool. So, the last thing I wanted to talk about really briefly in terms of news updates, well, actually there's two things. I'm still kind of on the fence about reopening my Etsy shop. So for those of you who were here for the live stream last week, I decided I was going to partake in the Etsy strike for the week, basically when the transaction fees jumped from 5% to 6.5%. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, and the Etsy platform has given me a lot over the years. It just makes it not sustainable. The amount I have to recoup per ball of yarn or per bat, things like that, it's just too high. And I don't feel good about raising those prices, and I don't want to just give smaller and smaller quantities out so that it seems like you're getting a discount, but actually you're just still getting less. So, I mean, there's a couple of ways that you can hide the price, but at the end of the day, I'm not a big bulk purchase, I'm not a big bulk buyer, so I can't purchase in quite the same way that a bigger wool shop might be able to. And I also dye pretty much everything that I put up for sale. So, you know, there's a lot of the production that I'm doing myself, so I can't just outsource it in bulk to buy it in bulk and then, you know, put my artistic flair on it. So the Etsy fee structure and those optional aspects that would normally come off as actually optional, but in order to be seen on the platform are more required. It's just made it my goods outside of the market. So I'll have to see how things go at the conclusion of the strike. But what's the sad thing? I have a very, very old email account, and that one like pretty much this whole week, I got, I think, 3 or 4 emails from Etsy just, you know, promoting all of the hand makers and the variety on the site, and it just felt like such a big slap in the face. What we're trying to do as small sellers, sometimes people just, they can absorb the extra price. So, you know, for those who can, great, but not every handmade business can, and I'm tired of being treated like I'm Amazon. Creativity takes time and energy, and if it's going to be worth something, then there has to be a reason to do it, not just, I mean, if I did everything for my own sake, then sure, and I have in the past. But if I'm trying to do education and outreach and using those funds I generate from Actually Dye to fund my educational courses, like on YouTube, because YouTube doesn't pay anything, then I need to form strategies that allow me to recoup the costs for that education so that there are more buyers in the future. So, you know, in that way, we're very different than Amazon. So, you know, just, Etsy has made me very frustrated. And what's really sad is that heyday of Etsy, basically between around 2006 and 2013 or 14, Etsy was definitely much more focused on the sellers and the seller experience. because they had already developed a decent, loyal buyer base. Even though it wasn't huge, it was still there. And a lot of people who sell on Etsy buy on Etsy. And so I didn't want to put too much Etsy related stuff on my Instagram or Facebook this week because I didn't want to give them too much recognition for the good parts that they've done, because I think that diminished the whole point of the strike. But many of the bats that you still see in my shop today, I'm using bits of silk or wool or mohair that I bought from other Etsy sellers years ago. And as long as you can store wool in a very particular way, it's not going to go bad. So I may not know exactly where I bought something. I just know that I got it from another seller on Etsy. And it's kind of sad how they've treated hand makers the last 5 or 6 years. I've actually, Karen, I have actually tried looking at other selling platforms. There really isn't anything to directly compete with Etsy. I did look at eBay, but eBay charges between 12 and 15% for a transaction fee, and that's clearly and I've also looked at some other sites monthly fees. So Shopify is too expensive for me. I'm already paying for Squarespace, so it would be basically like having 2 Squarespace accounts that I operate, but different platforms that don't communicate with each other. And since Squarespace also hosts my blog, and I've got space there for building and membership areas, so if I wanted to do subscriptions, or if I wanted to do like educational courses that you have to purchase a link to get access to, then I wouldn't be able to do that on a site like Shopify, or even I think Big Cartel is another one. So I couldn't use those. I did look at Bonanza, which I had never heard of. And that one is actually free until it sells, and the percentage that you are charged is really low as well. But there's no one else on the platform who sells hand-dyed yarn, or at least I wasn't able to find. So, you know, if there isn't much in the way of people selling similar items, then it's really hard to be successful there. And you could argue, well, there's the no fee attribute that doesn't matter, but I still have to curate it. And if I sell something on my website, then I have to manually update another shop, and then it just becomes more complicated. It was bad enough with Etsy and doing the same thing with Squarespace. So I think what I might just need to do is the money that I've been spending to keep my Etsy shop open, I'm just gonna have to do Google ads or something. So yeah, it's not a really great position to be in. And I know that Etsy's decision to basically force us to accept all of these platform developments, despite the fact that it doesn't always work for what we need. So I imagine, there's going to be a lot of us that are displaced without anywhere else to go. And so some people might just stop. You can join groups and sell your items through Facebook posts. But again, I just need something that's really simple, and it might just be that the answer for me right now is to try and get more traffic driven to exploitdye.com. Wow, you've never bought something on Etsy. I find that kind of strange because most other crafters I know who make their own yarn will have at some point. Is there a reason why? I'm curious now. I mean, with Squarespace, I might be sounding a little bit like an ad. um, I pay a monthly fee. I think it's like £23 a month. So it's about $1 a day to operate Squarespace. And the transaction fee is still, I think, only like, I think it's 3 or maybe 3.2%, which is what Etsy was like back when I first started in 2011. That's when I opened up my Etsy shop. So, you know, that's very reasonable to me, because what happens is I end up somewhere around 85 to 92% of my profits I actually get. And then not only can I reinvest that money to replace products that I sell, I can also use that money to purchase things that I need, like equipment, or if I, well, shearing season is coming up, so if I want to buy some more different fleeces, then I have money to do that. And if I want to help offset my costs, so Expedite also pays for some of the bills that I have in the States, that contributes to the education that I put out on YouTube. So to me, I feel like that's a really reasonable rate. And Squarespace does offer some boost to your standing by being hosted on Squarespace. So that's just something they give to everybody who has a website designed through Squarespace. But it's not quite in the same way that Etsy is, so I think I need to restart Etsy ads, or sorry, restart ads like I did before Christmas last year. So if anyone else has other ideas about how to do online sales through different platforms, then let me know. I'm happy to take a look. Something that didn't really occur to me is I haven't been checking my gauge. So I'm checking everything back to my first bobbin. Just because my second bobbin might have gotten a little bit out of gauge. So if I want to make sure everything matches my first bobbin, I always have to check back to my first bobbin rather than checking my third to my second only. So if you are spinning a large amount of yarn for a project where gauge is important, make sure that you're not only just checking against itself and the stuff that you've previously spun, like that, but you also want to check back to your previous bobbin. So this one is bobbin 2, so I can check it there just to make sure that this one is consistent. And then also with the first bobbin that I spun, to make sure that's consistent still too. That way I won't have any unfortunate surprises when I go to ply. Or worse, after it's dyed and I've been knitting it. Ugh, can you imagine? I am on Patreon. So, is that what you're talking about with Patron? Yes, Google, they suggest when you do your ads to do at least $1 a day to run the ads. But then they always give you these little updates after a week or so. It goes through like this, it's like the algorithm goes through a training sequence to sort of see how your ads are working with real data. And then they give you tailored AI generated suggestions based on that. But every single time I have done Google Ads, it always suggests you should increase your budget to $2 or $3. And it's like, well, yeah, that I'm sure would all work really, really well. But I can't afford that, and I'd rather try more traffic driven to my main website than to Etsy, because more of my money is in Etsy's pocket. Oh yeah, Paradise Fiber. That's also a really good place to go to. I feel like they're probably one of those old fiber companies that's been really successful online. They've been around for a very long time. Because I remember they were really well established even when I got into the fiber scene. Seeing it all in person is really, really helpful. It's very difficult though when sometimes people live in more rural areas and driving a couple of hours just to get to a fiber show is really hard. Or if you live in less densely populated areas. So in order to actually buy a lot of my wool, I'd have to go in person to get it, or I'd get samples sent to me, and then I had to trust that it was representative of the entire fleece. But it's really difficult to do that with independents. I would love to be able to have a shop where people could come in and look at and touch everything before they bought it, but I can't, I don't have any capital for the upfront costs. We ended up losing our local yarn shop because it was too expensive for her to maintain a shop nearby, so she just had to switch to online sales only, which is a bit of a shame because Leicester is really well known for its wool. And the hosiery factories, which many of them have now been converted into nice living arrangements. If you wanted a flat in the center of town, now they exist. The Woolery is also another really great place. I'm pretty sure that I bought my Kromsky wheel from the Woolery and then had it sent to Korea. Yeah, so being in England, I am exposed to a lot of really beautiful raw fleeces. So I'm looking forward to there being a new crop coming up, probably right around now. I know that a lot of babies have just been born. Leicester Longwool babies have been born to one of my guildmates. So shearing is usually something that you want to do right around that period of time, just so that the sheep don't get too hot. And I mean, I don't know, would you shear a pregnant ewe? Maybe, I don't know. That's an element I don't really investigate too much, but pretty much from now through June to July, I'll start seeing this huge steep increase in wool fleeces being made available. So I still have quite a bit. I'm gonna have to get another tote just because you can't really see it, it's slightly off screen, but I have a bunch of boxes set here and I want to put everything into plastic totes, mainly because it's really, really easy to stack them all together. And in conjunction with those big space saver bags, I can actually get 2 fleeces per container. Without using a space saver bag, I can only get 1. Because they're all poofy. So I probably just need to get another tote or two. So that would free me up to get some more fleeces. But again, this whole thing with Etsy, it's stopped a lot of my sales. So, you know, there's also the space issue in the house. So I'm kind of motivated to figure out a best marketing strategy to get people to expertlydyed.com. So inventory rate kind of picks up again, because ever since Etsy started changing their fee structure around, my sales have been extremely variable. So sometimes it's much better than others. And I think it has to do with something beyond my control. So I think it had something to do with the way Etsy provides search results to consumers. So, yeah. It sounds an awful lot like I'm just complaining, but these are very important concerns, because I see how buying strategies are changing. So I work for a retail shop selling chocolate, and chocolate is a fan favorite. Most people like chocolate. You might love chocolate. You might think it's okay. You could take it or leave it. But most people will eat chocolate. And even sort of on the dwindling end of a pandemic, people are fundamentally, across the board, reacting differently to consumerism. So people aren't buying things like they used to, and it's having a real effect on retail shops. I'm feeling it. The chocolate shop I work for is feeling it. Many of the businesses in the high street are feeling it. Some of the other independent shops that don't just sell food, or like we've got like a bunch of grocery stores nearby. They seem to be doing fine, just because they. Oh, thank you, Ben, for the donation. I'm number one. Aww. So I think there's a lot of uncertainty going forward, and so people are being more frugal with how they're spending money. So that's also something to consider, moving forward. How are shops that normally found a home on Etsy, how are they going to respond to the uncertainty of moving forward in a post-pandemic world and feeling all of the emotions coming from Ukraine and the horrible atrocities that are happening there? I know that the COVID numbers are fluctuating a lot, but it's not as easy to sort of make the same decisions today as we would have done pre-pandemic times. And I think a lot of retail shops where people aren't considering those goods essential. I don't know. Where am I going with this? These are some very raw thoughts. Nothing is quite so refined right now. But yeah, there's more to the dry spell in selling goods now than there were before, and I don't think it's just because of Etsy, and I don't think it's just because I can't actively market like I usually do. So. Oh, so Chris said, Chris lives in a fiber desert, so there's nothing around, and getting around to fiber fairs is difficult. So Chris is relying on online businesses to get supplies, which I can appreciate because getting a hold of silk locally is not possible for me. So I have to go through certain supplier routes. And I like to work with the undyed stuff. So most of the other craft shops are going to sell dyed silk, but I like to do that myself. Yeah, so what's your question about dyed wool, Chris? Go ahead and tell me. And Karen has clarified that you can shear pregnant ewes. I also suppose that keeps them a little bit tidier during the delivery. Yes, I do remember when I showed some of those bats. And if anyone else wants to ask questions too, feel free. When you start dyeing, I started very cheaply just to make sure that I really wanted to do this because sometimes it's not always for everyone. There's a steep learning curve to achieve the same kinds of dyed products that you see and buy from other shops. So Kool-Aid is a great one, food color as well. You can use all of that stuff in your normal pots and pans without worrying about having to have the separate containers for all of your dyed stuff. But I loved it so much that it wasn't too hard to go down to the local charity shop to get a bunch of old pots and pans to use. So that's what I did. I would love to do some dye weekends because there's been some local people to my neighborhood who have seen my posts on the local Facebook group, and they've asked me whether I would do workshops, and I absolutely would. It's really difficult to do everything with filming and then editing it all together and talking about all the health and safety concerns simultaneously. So I will do it in the future. It's just my kitchen always looks like a disaster, and I don't want to film the disaster that is my kitchen. And usually when I do have time to dye, I don't also have time to get everything set up for the filming. Let's see here. I totally feel the whole not having enough time, Sonia. I used to be really good about finding time to dye, but now that I work on Saturdays every week, and the shift I work is basically 9 to 6:30, so it's a really long day for me. I can't really bring myself to do that on Sundays. And then during the week is sometimes challenging because right now, before I was working on Saturdays, it was still difficult because I was finishing up my thesis corrections. But now it's also difficult during the week because I'm trying to find other work to complement what I've already got. Because I only work about 14 hours a week, which isn't enough to live on. So I've just been doing as much of that as I can and then working with the dyed stuff that I already have. So I need to get back into the kitchen because I think the last thing I dyed was some yarn for that blog post that I put up probably in February or maybe early March. That's a while ago now. Oh, okay. Oh, that's an interesting idea, Chris. So Chris has basically suggested, from having worked at a quilt shop, if I did a live event, I could use that to begin selling or like pre-selling some bats. That's actually a really good idea. I played around with the scheduling event for the last live stream that I did, and it didn't quite work. What I wanted to do was get a bunch of my spindles ready to sell and then schedule them to go live so that when I talked about it during the live stream, they would go live in the shop at the same time so that those special viewers who are watching would get the first chance to purchase the spindles if they wanted. But the schedule feature didn't quite work like I thought it would, and so I ended up having to manually change that. So that's actually a really good idea, scheduling a live stream to hype up some bats, and then doing that in conjunction with posting them to my website would be really, really great. That's a smart idea. Hi, Evie. Thank you for stopping by. So for those of you who like watching me, if you don't know about Evie, she's also got a channel called Jillian Eve. She's just posted a really cute video on making a 1960s beret from Angora fiber, which you said came from your pet rabbit, I think? I want to say your pet rabbit was George, but maybe that's just me inventing a name for your rabbit. Holy cow. That's a lot of overtime, Sonia. My mom also works a lot of overtime with her job. She works in corrections. And so she's getting ready to come and visit me during the summer for my graduation. Oh, speaking of which, if you want to see the graduation dress that I'm wearing, I posted that on my Patreon. It's literally 20 years in the making. I can't believe it's been 20 years. Okay, your bunny was named Peaches. I don't know why I was thinking George. My bunny named George. I don't know. Yeah, so Sonia, when you get to that time to start dyeing, just let us know and the internet will help. Because it sounds like you definitely earned it. Yeah, I really like how that yarn turned out. I have been meaning to make my contribution to the Angora crowd, so for those who might have attended that live stream before, Evie was doing all of the background work to come up with a Discord for all of the fiber arts creators to get together and discuss ideas and make collaborations and stuff like that. And so April is the month where we're doing all of the Angora videos, and I do have some Angora in my storage, my personal stash storage, which fits in one tote, just one. All the rest is just expertly dyed stuff, so there's a lot. Yeah, so it's just been sitting in there for close to 10 years now. I think 2012, 2013 is when I spun it. And so I wanted to use this month to actually make a video about it, but then I had some, basically a meltdown in March and early April. Really couldn't get back to doing anything. So if you ever wanted to learn more about Angoras and spinning it and dyeing it, etc., there's a whole bunch of creators that are creating content specifically about Angora. So if you just check out, I think Evie said she was going to have a playlist somewhere. Maybe she'll post a link if she's still around, where all of the videos are going to be curated. Or maybe I'm wrong and she'll correct me, but that's okay. So if you've seen any Angora videos from other fiber creators, you can also post that in the comments so that people who hear this video can actually link back to it. Ooh, a champagne French Angora. Oh, she must have been very fluffy. I'm actually trying to think. I had one named Alphonse. But now I can't remember which type he was, to be honest. Satin Angoras are also really nice because they've got this really nice sheen to their fur. I've actually got some satin Angora in my stash that I've been holding on to for, well, probably since about 2010 or 11. I need to just, I end up making so much content for YouTube or the blog, or just to put into the shop that I kind of forget to do stuff for myself sometimes. But let's see here. Oh, thank you for the 99p, Ben. A piece of pie sounds delicious, or because the weather is really, really nice, one of the things I like to do is make up some whipped cream and eat that with some strawberries. Oh, it's the best dessert. People doing... Yeah, so I've been very thankful so far. There haven't been anyone acting out of conduct on my YouTube live stream so far. But if it does come to such a thing where I'm trying to do an event and then also needing to field questions from the audience just so I don't miss anything, I might get my partner to help me out with that. So that's potentially an option for the future. That's, I mean, I think it would, I don't know if I'd be able to do it next week, but I do have plans to try and get more bats made so that I can keep up with posting new things regularly, because I think keeping the shop fresh based on my particular mood or the weather can sort of inspire people to have ideas for what to do with that product. So if I manage to get a few bats made this week, and then photographed, then I could do an event. And then also, I mean, it's kind of cramped in this corner. The other thing that I could do is get like a top-down view of the carder while I'm making bats. That way you can actually see the way that I make them, because I know other people have done lots of videos where they're making bats and talking about what they're adding, why they're adding it this way. One of Jillian's, or Evie's, earliest videos was, I think she was doing something with like purple Jacob. And I was really fascinated because I think once you are accustomed to using a drum carder, you kind of get set into the way of making that sort of suits you and your aesthetic. But it was also fun just to see someone else do it, because I don't end up watching a lot of people making bats, just because I'd rather watch other content that I'm less familiar with. But yeah, no, that was fun. The only problem is my phone would need an external microphone, which I don't have. So I'd have to look into getting like the one that clips onto your shirt or whatever, your lapel, because drum carders can make a lot of noise, especially when you're burnishing the wool so that it packs down onto the Swift. I mean the drum. Oh, Sonia's watched most of the playlist, so that's good. Again, if someone could just post a link to that playlist below, that'd be great. Yes, there's no such thing as too late. I will feel better once job prospects line up a bit better. It's really difficult because there's a lot of effort to do food prep. So today I've coordinated cleaning the house and tidying things up, taking the cats out basically for a walk, and then we're making pizzas for dinner, so I had to do all the stuff from scratch and using what we have from the garden to make it more interesting. So that, plus, for those of you who don't have like dishwashers, doing dishes is the bane of my existence, and I haven't had a dishwasher since 2012. Every single day I hate it. And then, I still have to make food, so stuff for lunch and dinner, and if we don't get it all done earlier in the day, then it just stacks up by the time dinner rolls around. And even after doing all those dishes, you have the stuff after dinner you don't want to do, and then it's just like staying on top of this endless task. I mean, it does take up more time, and so it's one more thing that I have to do every day. And I remember when I first started doing Actually Dyed, I had access to a dishwasher, and so back in the day, I used to be able to dye wool 3 or 4 times a week, every week. And having a dishwasher makes that possible, because I used to do this in addition to working full time during the day. So having to do all of the dishes by hand and do a lot of food prep, which I didn't do as much back then, makes a huge difference on how much I have time otherwise. So once I get myself sorted out after the issues I was working through the last 4 weeks or so, I'll be able to get back to doing that stuff. But like right now, my partner's, I asked him to do the stretches and folds on the dough for the pizza, so I could do this live stream uninterrupted, and then as soon as this is done, I have to go hang up the laundry outside and water the garden, which I wanted to do like 3 hours ago but didn't get time to do. I mean, it's gonna rain tomorrow, so it'll probably be okay, but my lavender plant nearly died, so I'm just trying to save it from being totally dead because I use that lavender for storage. So I did promise I was going to do a little supported spindling, so I'm going to put this away. I think I'm really close to being able to get this 3-ply made. So I think the next live stream that I do, I'll actually be able to do the plying stage and then the dyeing, and then we'll have to decide which colors to do. I might post some things on Instagram just to get some crowd feedback, because I'm really terrible about making certain decisions, like which color to dye something for myself. I have a lot of sweaters, and many of them are sort of like a mauvey, dusty pink to purple, and that's most of the colors that I have. Well, thank you, Evie, for joining us. That was a lot of hearts. Oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah, so I'll message you, Evie, if I can't find the link to the playlist. I'm not sure why it's not letting you post. Sorry about that. Or you could just go to Evie's channel for that. Let's see here. Okay, so posting it after the live. Okay. I think I understand what is going on in the chat right now. What to add, what not to add. That's another thing that I haven't really thought about, because like I was saying, I get kind of stuck in my way of doing, and so I end up making bats that conform to my aesthetic, but also I want to make sure that there's something I would spin, and if I'm not sure about spinning it myself, then I don't want to sell it, just because I don't want anyone to get a bad impression about fiber arts, especially if this is the very first bat they've ever bought, and be like, oh no, this is terrible, I don't know why I just wasted all this money. So, then again, doing like crowd-sourced ideas for making bats could be a lot of fun, so I'd have to work on the logistics for that. But yeah, okay. She is being very loud. I'm sorry for all of her mews. Dishes are awful. Okay, so this is my spindle that I'm using. This is not one of the ones that I'm making. This is a spindle that I bought years ago from an Etsy shop, where I also bought this from an Etsy shop. And what I wanted to do was make more of this yarn. So this is kind of like a worsted weight. I don't know if you can really see it. The sunshine is coming through the window, and so it's making all of the whites look really, really bright. So if I just separate that out. So you can see the thickness of it there. So it's kind of like a worsted weight, soft 2-ply. And I'm doing it very, very slowly because I spin on this pretty much every day, and I do this basically when I'm too tired to sit and spin with this. I just pulled out one of my hairs stuck in here. um, yeah. We do have a space where we could get sort of like a slim model dishwasher, but then we'd have to find somewhere else to put the trash and the recycling bins. And right now, the one space that we have in the kitchen where they could go, it's where I store all of my dyes, because I don't like to keep any of that in this room, because this room heats up from the sunshine in the afternoon. So I keep it where it can be cleaned up really easily if I need to, and also I'm working with it in the kitchen. So I know that this house was built in the late 1890s, and it was designed for a completely different lifestyle than the one that I live today. But that kitchen is way too small for anyone who's serious about cooking. And there's no cupboards at the top. So we've got the ones that go below the counter, but we don't have any that go above the counter. So finding storage for glasses and plates and that sort of thing is really challenging. So everything has to get stacked up in this, like, it's a double cupboard opening, but the shelves are only that deep. So you can really only get 2 glasses deep in there. And really, I have to stack them taller. So it's a very cramped kitchen. I can make it work, but whenever you're dyeing wool, it takes up a lot of space. And if I'm also doing a lot of cooking and things in the kitchen, then I have just endless amounts of dishes. I was talking about this earlier. Wouldn't it be nice to have a volunteer come into your house and just take care of all of your daily chores? So things like cooking and cleaning and tidying up, doing dishes, and then it's sort of like an at-home vacation. Sounds brilliant. I don't think it would ever work. But it would be so nice if something like this happened, because I really do feel the lack of holidays. So the pandemic has made me very appreciative of all those times I could go to conferences before, because I would be able to spend time sort of seeing different cities all the time. So I kind of got like a mini break while I was away. Yeah, I don't know if you can really see her. She's down here right now. She's literally sitting on the Ply magazine because, cat. she's she's sitting on the magazine. um they're they the homeowner before the landlord we rent from purchased this house must have paid to get the kitchen updated, but I think it was a single occupant who lived here, and so I felt like all of those design decisions reflected that, because if it was just me living here, it would have been fine. I would have had room for everything. It'd be very tidy. But at some point, there was sort of like an external building, like, what am I thinking of? Like a shed, outdoor shed. That wall separating the inside from the outside must have gotten taken down. And so that extended the kitchen slightly, but the only thing that fits there is the washing machine and the refrigerator. We have a small storage shelf where we could put some pots and pans and things like our eggs, but it's not a lot of space, and since we do a lot of cooking, and now we've got some brewing equipment, so we make our own mead now, which is fun. It's way less expensive than buying alcohol from the grocery store. So we have to store some of that equipment in the kitchen just to kind of keep it safe, but also segregated from all the other kitchen implements. So I probably just need to spend some time going through and reorganizing everything, but there isn't a lot of extra storage space, and there's this whole bit of one of the walls that could be storage that just isn't. It's basically like a glorified bread shelf. So it doesn't make a lot of sense there. Oh well. Yes, it would be nice to have a volunteer housekeeper for just a week. So, maybe people who are interested, I'm thinking if this were a real possibility, that is, someone who's wanting to get some work experience, maybe they want to become a carer, or if they want to work in hospitality, or just any of those types of jobs where keeping things clean, tidy, and being versatile, then doing like a volunteer work exchange just to give the people providing the opportunity just to like relax and do less, but maybe they can't necessarily afford to pay the person, or maybe they can't just jet set away, then this gives them a chance to kind of get a reprieve from all of the housework, because I feel like that's part of the reason why I'm struggling to do the things that I want to do, is I'm just being weighed down by the fact that I haven't had any holiday for over 2 years. I've just been working myself to death, and not being able to take a break from it ever because I can't afford it, or I can't get away because it's a pandemic. It adds up. And so I think that's part of the reason why I've not really been able to do as much content the last month or so like I had initially intended. So it's probably just a complete fantasy. Nothing like that would actually exist. But it would be so nice if it did. Oh. I love big dinner salads. They're so easy and so versatile, and you can pretty much put anything on there. Sometimes I'll even add, I'll cook up some rice just in case we don't have any bread or anything. So I'll add that to the salad. It also makes it feel a little bit better in the belly, especially if you're having a dinner salad during cold months. Because I found that if you eat just a lot of cold meals repeatedly, like every single meal for a couple of weeks, I don't know about anyone else, but I get really depressed whenever I'm not able to have a hot meal. I don't know, maybe that's weird. Let's see here, what else? Ooh, a once a week housekeeper. Yeah. I mean, this room I cleaned about a week ago, and that barely looks like I've done anything in here. It's still tidy, it's just I can see all the dust and all the debris from us tracking stuff in from outside. And now Layla has found the bag of wool. I'll show you. Look at her. Her little paws. She's massaging the wool. Yeah, housekeeping is definitely one of those options for me, except they don't have a car, and getting to places that would require their housekeeping, because I do really love cleaning and I like keeping things very tidy. I need to get my driver's license here, but in order to do that, I need to get some time behind the wheel here, because even though I'm more familiar now with the UK driving scheme than I was when I first got here, it's still very different. So that having driver's lessons still costs money, and taking the test costs money, and also getting a car costs money, and these are all things I don't have, so I'm pretty much stuck until a job pans out for me. It's also coming into archaeology season, so I'm hoping that there will be something out there pretty soon. Yeah, she's not normally allowed on the wool. She's never allowed on the wool that I have for the shop, just because I know some people are really sensitive to cat hair and cat dander. Sometimes I'll let her play in it when it's still dirty and it needs to be washed, because it's like a happy drug for her. I don't know if others out there who have cats, if they have a similar reaction, but she's the most excited and happiest when she can roll around in a fleece freshly shorn. But this is my very fancy merino, and I normally don't let her sit on it. I keep it in a protected environment so that it doesn't get invaded by moths or anything like that. But because she's had a little online time today, I'm gonna let her do it until I close the stream. Poor thing. And it's in the sunshine, of course, so she's like very happy. In fact, here's a really funny story about Layla. So when I did this knitting project for the lady who does the spindles for me, I asked her kind of on a whim if she could design and produce some supported spindles, and she said, yeah, I think I could. And then she brought in some prototypes, and I kid you not, she was like the cat whisperer. She took Layla and was holding her like a baby, and Layla was being like the most obnoxious she ever is, like purring and rolling around and like digging around in this lady's coat, and then she just fell asleep in this lady's coat. And I was like, I'm so sorry for my cat's behavior. She was turning on all the charm, and then this lady was just like, oh no, it's totally fine. So now every time this lady comes over, Layla gets a full pampering, and yeah, just I just sometimes I can't understand my cat's behavior, and then she also embarrasses me by some of her antics, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh well. Wouldn't be a cat owner if the cat did normal things. Oh, Layla does one better. She absolutely loves the dirty laundry. And we've got this purple basket that we put all our clothes in. She gets in there and licks it. I don't understand why, because we put both the dirty laundry and the clean laundry in there. So I don't know what her obsession is. I feel like she can taste the color purple, and so that's why she's. Oh, we've got Star Lady who joined in from the chat, making a blanket for the eldest spawn. Oh my. And your eldest spawn is how old? Yeah. Oh, 23. Wow, congratulations. I'm pretty sure my parents felt the same way about getting me to 18. Yeah, Layla is just. She gets really feisty and she still bites me sometimes. She'll sometimes bite people who come over. Vera, I can never catch her and put her on screen because she's very, I won't call her skittish, but she's a very cautious cat. Unless she's in her daddy's arms and then she's like a big old baby. And she loves to go outside, so earlier today, it was really funny. I have to take the cats out one at a time because I've only got the one lead, and because Layla is so much of a handful, she has to go outside and eat all the things that will make her feel sick. So I have to watch her like a hawk to make sure she doesn't eat sticks or leaves because she'll choke or throw up or both. So I took Vera out first this morning, mainly because she was practically out the door before her leash was on. So she has her own little personality, but any kind of loud noises or if I do a lot of talking, she doesn't want to be around me. Layla, on the other hand, is just always up my butt. Even though she's sleeping right now. Oh, yes, let me, because I had the camera set for the wheel. Let's see if we can lower this some more. The sun is coming down, so I might have to close the stream here in a little bit. We've also been going for over an hour. But I don't know how much more I want to pack onto this particular spindle, because what happens is the bit at the top starts to slide up and then it gets partially felted. And I don't want to felt this wool, because if I felt it, it's not going to be as fluffy when I do the ply. The wool that I'm using for this is, it's Cormo. This was actually the last bits from my, the first fleece I ever processed by hand. So I did partial fleeces before this, and I did some alpaca fleeces. But this was the first one that was a full fleece. And I bought it in, I think it was like one of those first shearings of 2011. So I've had it for a long time. Before I left to come to the UK, I actually carded it all and then put it into storage. So when I was visiting my mom in March of 2020, I decided to send it over here so I could work on it or do something with it. I think I was actually planning to dye it, but it works really, really well for the supported spindle because I'm still sort of a beginner with this method, and so I wanted to find a wool that would grip onto itself really well, and this Hormo is absolutely perfect for that. When I did my spindles for the shop, I test spun every single spindle for at least 20 to 30 minutes each, and I used Ryland for that, and I thought that worked really, really well. So I've pre-drafted this just to make it a little bit easier during the spinning process. Well, happy birthday to Star Lady's son. And I'm sure he'll very much appreciate having a nice warm blanket. Ever since I used my Castle Milk Morit to make the cat blanket for the cats, I actually really love putting it on my lap. I've definitely taken my fair share of naps with it. So I've joined that piece in pretty much the same way that I would do it at the wheel. I just, I have to step it onto the join a little bit more so that the join looks nice and smooth. I don't know if you can really see it in this light is getting kind of bad. Yeah, so if I want it to be nice and consistent, I found that with the supported spindle, if I get to the end, fluff up the ends, get it going with some twist, and then I draft it out, and just go ahead and wind that part on, then I won't accidentally pull too far when I'm drafting the yarn, so that that join gets weakened through this process. Because I don't want to put a lot of twist into the single, so that the 2-ply that I make is really soft and fluffy. So I don't want to accidentally pull the join apart. Yeah, I actually don't know how much is on here. As I said, so wool doesn't compress quite as much as plant fibers will. And because I'm spinning this with less twist than I would normally for a medium twist 2-ply, this is probably not as much wool as you think. It might be about 35 grams of yarn. I think the most I've gotten off of one of these is 50 grams. So it looks like a lot, but because it's really fluffy, it's not going to compress as much, and because it's wool, it's not going to compress as much. So it's a bit deceptive. I think the spindle itself weighs 37 grams, which is about what most of the supported spindles I carry in the shop also weigh. And I feel like that's a really good beginner spindle. I don't know much about the advanced techniques that you might want to use in the future, because I still consider myself a beginner. But if I find this is working for me, then it's probably going to work for a lot of others too. There are some heavier supported spindles out there. Some of which I studied for my PhD. So we've got some ethnographies from the Salish spinners on the northwest coast of North America. And they use very large whorls for their supported spindling. They're also using different wool and making different types of things with the yarn, but there can be a much greater sense of variation in size with supported spindling than there is for, say, suspended spindling. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, just let me know and I'll post a reply in the comments. So, yeah, so this, I've got, let's see here, how much of this wool do I have? I knew that I was going to have plenty for a sweater. So, I've got, this is 2 bats, this is 1 small bat. And then over here I've got 4 more bats, and then another one that I've already turned into a spinnable pre-drafted bit like this. I don't know why I didn't grab that one because it was in this box, that's why. So I'm imagining I probably have somewhere around 300 to 400 grams of this prepared cornmeal wool left. Probably about 300 grams, because I think this one was 40 grams. So yeah, probably just enough for a sweater to do the sampling, and this I will also probably dye. Because it's worsted, I won't need as much yardage, but I will still need to get it all spun, and since we're doing it with the spindle, it will take a little bit longer, but I don't know. I think once I'm done with this wheel spun version, I'll switch to something more colorful there, and then I will be able to tolerate spinning this too, because this is white and that is white, and there's just so much white that I'm spinning. It's a little bit much. I do have a sensitive scale. The one that we use for coffee measures to the 0.0 gram. So I will often leave this spindle spun yarn in a ball form. So I use my bobbin winder to make a ball of yarn, and then I'll just let that sit there. I'll either ply it on itself, or I will do a traditional ply. But because I only had one of these, I was just restricted to taking everything off and letting it sit while I spun more. Now that I have someone making supported spindles, I'll probably be able to just do more spindles full of yarn and ply directly from there, but I would also need to get a Lazy Kate specifically for that. Yeah, so exactly what Star Lady just said. I've also stored it on, you know, the bamboo chopsticks. I've also stored plied or spun yarn on unused chopsticks to be plied in the future. It kind of looks like this when I put it on there, but it takes a long time to wind it, so I usually just do the central ball option. Yes, so if I wanted to know how much my yarn weighs, I would just weigh the whole thing and then subtract the total weight of my spindle, and that would give me an idea of how much I already have on here. So there's lots of things that you can do to get approximate yardage. So if you weighed out 5 yards, so you would just take off like 5 yards of this, and it doesn't matter if it's plied or not, it's just you could get a sense of what 5 yards weighs, then you would divide that number by 5 and multiply it by the total weight that you have in order to get an approximate yardage. So let's say you had 5 yards that weighed 5 grams. So you would say, oh, each yard weighs 1 gram. And if you have 50 grams on here, you could take that 50 grams divided by 1, which would basically be 50 yards. Hopefully that makes sense. So it wouldn't be perfect because hand spun is usually more variable than a machine-made product, but that would give you a really rough idea on how to figure out how much yardage you probably have if you know the weight of the spindle and how much a known amount of yardage weighs. And I've done that before when I'm trying to decide how much to spin on my bobbins. Each bobbin weighs almost exactly the same amount, so if I just weigh the bobbin without any yarn on it, and then I weigh the bobbins that I have, then I can also make decisions about which bobbin I might need to add a little bit more to. So the bobbin that I first did for this third skein of yarn, I know that there's not enough on there just from looking at it. So what I could do is I could weigh my second bobbin, which I know has more yardage, get that number, and then subtract the weight of the unfilled bobbin that I have to see how much yarn would be on there, and then I could just use that as a guide. Since I know I'm spinning it to the same consistent gauge, then if, let's say, if this bobbin had 100 grams of yarn and this one only had 80, then I could card up 20 more grams of yarn of fiber and then add that 20 grams spun to this one so that they would be roughly equal in weight. And since they're the same gauge, because I keep making sure they're the same gauge, then I would roughly have about the same yardage. So hopefully that also makes sense. Anyway, all right, so it's now 5:40, so I'm gonna have to let you guys go. If you have other questions about this project with the wheel or the one with the supported spindle, just post those below. I still have some comments from last week's live stream to get to. This week coming up, I'm also going to be spending some time learning DaVinci, which is another video editing program, because I've got some footage of me spinning this that I wanted to share in the future when that project is all done. And also I have my next Fiber Talk video that I've partially filmed that needs to be edited and put up on the channel. So next week is going to be about making some more bats, posting some more spindles, and then teaching myself how to use this software so that I can actually put edited tutorials and things like that back on the channel. So, whew, some things to do next week, but I will also make sure to sleep in. So just wanted to give everyone a big thank you for joining me today and hanging out and listening to my rambles. It's very therapeutic for me. My guild met yesterday for their Easter workshop, and then, their Easter session, our guild spinning session. I had to teach workshops yesterday, so I wasn't able to go. So because I can't join them, we're here all together doing this. Hopefully learning more. Definitely check out Jillian Eve's channel for anyone interested in spinning Angora. Be sure to check out my Instagram for updates on what I'm doing with various products and what I'm going to be doing about Etsy. So if you want to continue purchasing anything from me, it's going to probably be direct from expertlydyed.com. And I will be able to get back to producing videos right after I learn how to use DaVinci. It's a free software package, so it kind of helps with me and my financial situation, but because it's something that I've never done before, it's going to take a little while. And to those of you who have given me donations over the last week, I very much appreciate it. I meant to mention this at the start of the video and forgot, but there were a couple of people who very kindly sent me donations. And they will go to various aspects of Expertly Dyed and getting the things that I need to keep producing educational content. And then to those of you who are just watching these videos, even as replays, I am still getting ad revenue from YouTube, so every cent matters. But also being able to reach out and talk with other fiber enthusiasts is really nice too. So anyway, I think, yeah, so Helper Kitty she's totally passed out now. I'm gonna have to wake her up when I start packing everything up. But have a great week, and I will let you guys know about the next live stream, and for the next live stream topic, I'm going to post that on Instagram just to see what people are interested in. I can also do the background work for making bats live and see how that goes. So it's all trial and error, y'all. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.